Hi guys, welcome back to the Liberty Bunker. Universal basic income. This is something we've been hearing more and more about in the last few years. The idea of just giving every citizen in society, or maybe every citizen over 18 in society, a set amount of money, regardless of who they are, how much they earn. We've seen experiments like this in some countries, in some regions. However, with coronavirus now, it's looking like something that could actually be brought in wide scale in the UK. Headline here from the Telegraph: Boris Johnson considers giving free cash to all. Universal basic income is a controversial and relatively untested idea, but is among the options being considered by the government. Now, obviously, from the left of society, this is quite a popular idea. I mean, the left obviously want to push the role of government, the size of government, and making people more dependent on government. That's just a natural phenomenon that the left tend to perpetuate. So this one from the Independent: Labour leadership candidate Rebecca Long-Bailey calls for universal basic income during pandemic. Now, I'm not actually even totally against the idea of universal basic income. As someone who self-defines as a small government, minimal government person, if you are going to have benefits, there is an argument for the idea of a universal basic income. We'll come on to the role of it in coronavirus in a second, but we have so many benefits in the UK. So you have like unemployment benefits, you have sick pay, maternity pay. We'll leave disability allowance out of it because I think that's something slightly different. I think, something like disability allowance probably should still continue because the person has, a vulnerability, a reason why they will likely or possibly not be able to be involved in any kind of, workforce activity. So we'll leave disability allowance off it. You would probably look to keep that one. But if you had a universal basic income, you could pretty much get rid of all the other benefits if you wanted to. Now, the way Boris Johnson is probably looking at this, the way the Labour Party would want this implemented, I'm sure they would want to run a universal basic income alongside, unemployment benefits and maternity pay and, sick pay, things like that. But you could have so much clearing of bureaucratic, nonsense. The billions we spend in the UK, funding things like the Department of Work and Pensions, allocating who gets what benefits. It's a very complicated system. It's very inefficient. It costs billions. So there is a small government, minimal government argument that if you just gave everybody in the country a small amount of money, say a week, a month, just enough to live a very, very modest lifestyle, like you could afford maybe a very cheap rent, like in you could work off a system a bit like how CPI and retail price inflation are worked out. You could base universal basic income on, okay, so where's the cheapest place in the UK to live? How much is rent there? How much could you basically feed yourself if you were just living a very frugal lifestyle, if you were just eating rice and frozen vegetables, and just give each person in the country that amount of money? So you could say, well, if you really tightened your belts, no matter what position you are in financially, with this universal basic income, you could survive and just get rid of pretty much all the other benefits. Probably not get rid of disability allowance because that's not really fair to people that are disabled and can't work for those reasons. If it's just someone that's struggling or just getting by or unemployed for a short period, you say, well, look, here's universal basic income. You're not going to get any kind of job seekers allowance. We're just going to give you this. So there is a small government argument to it. Obviously, one of the bigger downsides, affordability. How do you afford this? The UK is nearly £2 trillion in debt. It's only getting bigger. Coronavirus will only accelerate that as the economy shrinks, tax receipts fall. Now, the government is spending huge amounts of money trying to fight off the economic effects that coronavirus will have. If it was to be for a short period of time, maybe like Boris Johnson's looking at, possibly even how Rebecca Long-Bailey's looking at it, how do you ever unwind it? Because once you start giving people a benefit, it's very difficult to take that benefit back away. So that's what I'd worry about. If it's just been implemented as a short-term idea, how do you ever take it away? But I'm open to the idea of a universal basic income. I wouldn't say I support it, but if you are going to have a universal basic income, if you can scrap all the other benefits and potentially be saving billions from the benefits you've got rid of, and especially the administration and the bureaucracy involved in issuing those benefits, there's potentially a cost saving. If you want to go for a real libertarian argument, you could argue you could get rid of socialised healthcare and even the education system and just give people enough money that they can then choose their own health insurance and, pay for their kids to go to basically make the market free market. But that's a bit out there. That's not something I'd expect any government in the UK to do. Certainly you'd need quite a libertarian, free market leaning government to do that, which that's likely never to happen. Other downsides is, it's been talked about by some people, the mental health effects of this. Now, you could argue if people aren't stressing, paying their, day-to-day bills, that's potentially going to boost mental health. However, there is an argument that if people don't have a purpose in society, if they can just sit at home all day playing video games, that could actually be quite corrosive to people's mental health. How many people, you hear these stories, self-made millionaires, self-made billionaires, people that have really come out of poverty, and they've used their poverty, their background of hardship to really accelerate themselves forward. Many great people have achieved great things by being motivated. They've been poor, right? I don't want to be poor anymore. I'm going to go out, work hard, work 100 hours a week, and really pull myself out of it. You kind of dampen in that effect. But a counter argument is, there's many people out there working, day-to-day jobs, working hard, still working 40, 50, 60 hours a week just to make ends meet. Some of them have probably got great entrepreneurial ideas. So if they had a universal basic income where they could pursue maybe more of their entrepreneurial pursuits rather than having to work a menial job, those people could also create great things. So there's arguments either way for universal basic income. On the face of it, I can't really support it just because, with the unfunded liabilities the UK has, especially in terms of things like pensions, the obligations we already have to pay, it's pretty much an insolvent situation anyway. The system's probably going to collapse at some point anyway. Just by how large the numbers are, it's probably going to collapse anyway. So adding universal basic income to the mix will almost certainly accelerate it. But if the government could cost it, be honest, which there's almost no way they do, because this is just a potentially short-term vote winner. If there's a way they could cost it long-term by saying, okay, we're going to scrap the universal credit system, what is now like job seekers allowance, things like that, sick pay. We're just going to scrap that, maternity pay, and we're just going to go for this very simple, easy to implement UBI system. It could possibly work, but no British government would do that. It's not really a vote winner. They'll want to run this alongside the current benefits. It's just an interesting one. We'll see how it goes. I mean, you can expect quite radical things to come off this coronavirus situation. Now, the real worry is the things they implement now, how do you unwind them in the future? Because people that get used to having an extra £200 a week, maybe from a universal basic income, or something like America's doing, just send everybody in the country $1,000 check or a $2,000 check. People start becoming accustomed to those sort of things, and it just perpetuates. And long term, most of these Western governments are insolvent anyway, and coronavirus is only accelerating that. However, expect coronavirus to push forward some quite crazy ideas. I mean, Bank of England already up for printing billions, potentially trillions of pounds. So, I mean, ultimately, it's probably just going to accelerate the end collapse anyway. But I don't know, let me know your thoughts and opinions. Universal basic income, is it a good one? Is it a bad one? If we implement it, can we ever unwind it? Or will these just be policies for the long-term future? Thanks for watching this video. Jason from Liberty Bunkers signing off, and I'll see you in the next video.